Hey guys, Dantix here. This is the perfect Starship. It does everything you could want and more. It has the perfect amount of power to keep what you need powered up without playing around with nodes. It's crazy fast and maneuverable, but you won't even need to dogfight as it has a huge amount of hull and shields, with the vulnerable modules being hidden within the ship itself. That's if your enemy even damages you, as it automatically destroys everything around it at super long range, but can also engage with manual lasers and ballistics. It has all the habitation modules you require, including every crafting table, but without all the unsightly ladders and holes in the floors and roofs which ruin your ship's interior. It can be crewed by the maximum amount of companions. It has a huge amount of cargo space, as well as shielded cargo and scan jammers to smuggle in your contraband. It has the maximum jump range you need to get anywhere in the universe, as well as enough fuel to save you from having to make multiple jumps. Plus, it minimizes the space perfectly, as you can see. It's not at all a huge lumbering block of a ship. I molded it after the Klingon bird of prey. That's not all. If you rather maximize stats and ignore the form factor, you could remove the wings and shift the weapons and it would make it slightly faster, and or you could add powerful engines. So in this video, I'll show you exactly how to build this monster, but first, let's take a tour. And what better way to begin the tour than right here in my favorite part of the ship, the bridge. Now, the bridge is not my favorite just because it has a great viewing angle of the battles ahead, but because it is the only bridge that is 2 stories and is connected by a staircase. So we won't need to utilize ladders at all. Instead, we will be using just this area here to get up and down, which is perfect because aesthetically it looks great. Barrett, what were you and Andrea doing in my captain's quarters? And Sarah, are you okay, girl? Anyway, the top story is all for vanity's sake. So we can come into our captain's quarters, we can sleep with Sarah here, and we can display all of our weapons and our spacesuits that are worth displaying here. So we don't even need this section of the ship, it's just for vanity. I don't know, is there a threesome going on in here? Okay, I'll shut the door behind me then. Okay, continuing down, we have the functional area of the ship. For some reason my crew is not down here when they should be, but this gives me 4 crew stations, this area here. And it also connects to the workstations that are all placed within here, the weapon, the industrial, the research lab, and the spacesuit workbench, all within one section of the ship. And if we go further down, we have the infirmary, which has a research lab, and the pharmaceutical lab. And of course, all of the sides of the ship have windows to look out of, so if we were in space right now, it'd be a beautiful view. Let's continue to the other side of the ship. We can see everything has windows, and we can craft our food items here in the galley. And if we go further down, this whole hab does not even need to be here. You can put whatever you want in this section of the ship, but I chose to have more crew station. Now, you'll notice here we have a little walkway, and this walkway connects us to the wing of the ship. So we can put whatever hab we want here. This is just a crew area, and we can look at the back of the ship with this window here, which is beautiful when you're in space. And let's continue on to the middle of the ship. The only spot that doesn't look sightly is how we get to the outside of the ship, or how we connect to other ships and space stations. So we don't even need to use the ladder at all. It's quite simple. This is the only section of the ship you'll need to use to get out of the ship. So it's all pretty damn seamless, huh? And here we are in the left wing. Once again, this hab can be anything you want. It's a computer core for me. So that is the whole ship. So now we arrive at the most important part, how we actually build this monster. Well, to begin with, where do you build it? I recommend building it in your ship builder area in your outpost. So go to your outpost if you've built one and build a landing pad with ship builder. It costs quite a lot, quite a lot of iron, quite a lot of aluminium because you need to make a lot of adaptive frames, zero wire and beryllium. But once you have it, it has the absolute most amount of ship module parts. It has from every manufacturer, almost everything except the top end things like the bridge here and like some of the engine parts and some modules that we'll go through in a little bit. But this is the best place to build your ship. However, you can build it anywhere you want to. Check out my video below for all of the unique manufacturer locations. You're going to need to go to the Nova one to get this bridge, and you're going to need to go to the Hope Tech one to get these connecting pathways between the wings and the ship body itself, and so on. So let's just get right into it. Let's go into the shipbuilder. The first thing you want to do is you want to get this Nova Galactic Cabot bridge. It doesn't need to be the C4 one, but it does need to be this model. So you'll notice here it has 6 points or 6 nodes that you can connect parts to. We want to start connecting our habs here first. This is the first thing we need to do because we don't want to mess around with ladders. And ladders are sometimes created if you don't do things in the right order. So let's grab the middlemost hab, the Hope Tech Control Station 2x1. Now, it doesn't need to be a control station. The reason I like it to be a control station is because when we connect the Deimos workshop and the Hope Tech all-in-one berth, they will be connected by a door in this section here. It's just how it works out for some reason. I've done a lot of testing with all of these habs, and this is my best layout or my favorite layout. And you don't need to do it this way. You can experiment with your own different habs because different habs look different inside. But this is what I've found to be the most effective. So at the top, we have the Tayo Captain's Quarters. I just like the look of this Captain Quarters better. You don't need to use this one. Then we have the Armory and nothing in this section here because we need the space here to put all of the inner workings of the ship, like the grav drive, the reactor, and one of the helium tanks. So we need a little bit of space there. So you'll notice we have the Deimos workshop, we have the Hope Tech control station, and a Hope Tech all-in-one berth. This one has the cooking station in it. We have the Tayo Captain's Quarters, and we have the Nova Galactic Armory. So we do have a bit of a range of habs here so far, but we are not done. We need the Deimos Infirmary. I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but I don't really care. And we put the infirmary connected to the workshop, so we got all of our workstations within one area. And we grab the control station and we pop it down here, and there we go. We don't need to have this control station. It can be any 2x1 you want. The only reason I've got it is because it's got 4 crew stations, and it just adds to the extra 2 that we've got from the bridge. So that's the beginning of our ship. What do we do next? Well, for starters, I'm just going to pop everything that's at the top here on the top here, just so you can kind of see it being built out from the top down. First up is the Stroud Port Aft Top. I'm not going to pronounce all of these, just have a read of them yourself and pop them in like that. These are wings, but we're going to use this to round out the head of the ship like so. I'm going to take all of these portholes and start attaching them to the ship. So you can just go into the structure section to find these. I won't show you where everything is. I won't show you how to build ships either. I'll just show you how to build this one. If I go through how to build a ship, we'll be here for hours. So take the porthole tops and put them on the top. Take your shield generator and put it on the top here. Now, this can be any shield generator you want that fits on the top of modules. It doesn't need to be this one. This one is the most powerful that I've seen in terms of max shield health. The Sextant Assurance SG 1800. It requires Starship Design 4, but you can get models down if you don't have the skills for it or can't afford it. I'm going to grab these two M30 Ulysses helium-3 tanks. They kind of blend in with the ship, so just add a little bit more fuel to it without, making it look unsightly. And you can kind of see how the ship is forming already. I'm going to put 2 more portholes next to the tanks themselves. And then I am going to grab what is probably more important right now to finish up the build. The 2 companionways from inside the ship. So I've got actually, you don't need to have branded companionways. You can just have any companionways or even any 1x1 storerooms. But I'm using these 2. So I'm not going to plug them in just yet, just because I don't want this armory to be connected to this companionway via a door. I want the door to be from the captain's quarters to the armory. And sometimes if I connect this up first, it does strange, funky things. So let's take the landing bay. This one is a Deimos 120 LD landing bay. You'll notice that it's connected to the top here. I experimented with other landing bays, ones that connect to the side and continue on straight, so there's absolutely no ladders. But the ship ends up looking like absolute garbage, and you need to make it extra wide, and it just doesn't work as well as I'd like. So instead, I'm going to use this landing bay here. And then we are going to start pulling the ship apart. I might start by getting these off, these engines off, taking this off, and then showing you that there's 2 storerooms that can be 1x1 storerooms of any kind that you like, but they need to go here. So I'm using Nova Galactic ones. You don't need to use Nova Galactic ones, but I am. So take your 1x1 companionway and put it between them. So now, as you can see, these rooms all connect together, except it won't actually connect here. You'll need to go from the right-hand side, but they're all connected. So pop your landing bay just below the companionway there. And now that that's connected, you can enter in from here, from the ship, go up here, and then around like so. So then we put our 1x1 on top, and we put our Deimos slim docker on top of that. It can be any docker you want. It doesn't need to be the slim one. I just prefer it being slim. So then we grab our Galleon S202 cargo holds. These ones blend in more than a lot of the other cargo holds. Most cargo holds look like cargo holds, whereas these just look like part of an engine. So we put the structural Deimos braking engines in front of that, and we grab these Nova 1050 engines. You'll notice that there's only Class B with max power of 3 and not the most amount of maneuvering thrust or engine thrust. The reason I'm using these engines is because they just look good. Like so. They just blend in so goddamn well with the Slayton Aerospace Cell 6830, which only takes a max power of 2, which is really nice. For those who don't know, less power is better because you need to put the full amount of power in to get the most amount of thrust that's listed there. So to get 1800 thrust, you need to be putting in 2 max power. So there are better engines than these 3 engines. For example, let me just show you some now. There are some better engines. For example, these Supernovas, much more thrust. These Umundan X300 engines are probably the best ones that we have here. I'm level 100 and these are the best that I've seen. A lot of maneuvering thrust, which means your maneuverability will be better, and a lot of thrust, which means your top speed will be better, but they look like goddamn trash. So I'm just not using them. But you can, if you want the absolute maximized ship, then this would be not the best layout, but this just works really goddamn well. Now, you'll notice that this ship looks kind of cool, just as it is without the wings. So you could run it without the wings completely. So let me finish it off so you don't need to, and then we can add the wings after. First, let's flip it on over, and we notice that we've left some space here for the guts of the ship. First up is the grav drive. Now, the grav drive is the Apollo GV300 grav drive. This is the best you can possibly get. You don't need to use this one, but it is too high, as in 2 spaces high. So by leaving a little gap, we can slot this in, and now you'll notice that this and our reactor, which is too high as well, perfectly blends in with the shape of the ship. And once we get everything else in, it becomes very difficult for the enemy's fire to actually hit any of the important parts of the ship. So we've got the share flow reactor. This is the best reactor I've found at my level. Gives me 40 power, and needs piloting 4, and needs Starship design 4. So it's the absolute best. Gives you 40 power, and it's protected by basically the whole structure of the ship. And then we have the shielded cargo bay. You're going to need to go to the quay, or to the Red Mile, or to anywhere dodgy to get shielded cargo bays. This one just looks like the nose cap of the middle of the ship. Yeah. So it just works out perfectly to blend everything in underneath the ship. And it's going to be even more blend in once you put in this structure here, which looks like one long engine. So we have the SA4330 engines. You notice this is only a Class A engine, and this takes a max power of 2, so you can get much better engines than this, but they just look good. They look good together, so that's the only reason I'm using this particular engine, but you can swap it out. And then we have the 8 Accu landers. These ones have a landing thrust of 2, so you will, if you replace these with something else, need to use something that has a thrust of 2. But we have a nose cap in the front as well, a Stroud nose cap. And it just looks like a complete engine. So build this all out together like so. Just go bam, 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 and bam. Making sure that these are flipped to the right side. See, they can flip if I press Z, different angles. Make sure it's the right side so it looks nice and smooth. And then select all. I'm using Control Click. And then pop it under the ship, like so. Bam, 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 bam. And pop it on under. And there we have it. You have a complete ship. It's got everything it needs to function. It's unstoppable and godly. It's just the best possible design you can have that I've seen so far. And it flies very, very well. But you want weapons. So what you do is you take off these portholes, like so, and you pop on these equipment plates. Equipment plates let you place weapons where you normally couldn't, and you can pop all your weapons on top and you're good to go. But that's not what we're doing today. Today, we are doing it my way. And my way is I like a little bit more flair. So the first thing you want to do is you want to pop to Hope Town and Hope Tech and grab yourself one of these. This is a Hope Tech Hab Cross Brace. This lets you actually walk from the storeroom into the brace and then into a hab, which is next to it. So let's grab a random hab. It doesn't need to be anything in particular, just whatever you want or you like. And you connect it. So now you can walk from the middle of the ship to the wing like we showed in the showcase before. I'm going to grab a Tayo spine just to extend out this claw, and then Nova cowling to cap it off, and Deimos wings to make it a bit more like a blade. I'm going to get a porthole at the back. Don't forget that part. It's the most important because you want to be able to look out into space. And there we have the wing. Beautiful. Okay, so now we need weapons. let's grab... Whoopsie doopsies. Let's grab the 2 equipment plates, which you also find in structures. A lot of people don't utilize these enough, but they are brilliant. Grab the auto alpha turrets. Now, there's a reason why I'm using these turrets. Yes, there are better versions of this turret, not at the outpost builder, but at specific dealers. You'll find one that does over 100 damage to hulls and shields, has a fire rate of 1.5, I believe, and takes 4 max power. If you actually do the math, it has a little longer range as well. If you actually do the math, you do a lot more damage with this one, even though it's not quite as expensive or not quite as higher skill requirement, because this one hits more often. A higher fire rate, especially with an auto turret, which automatically fires, miss quite a lot. So having a high fire rate means that you'll hit more often, if that makes more sense. So it also works out very well with the amount of power that is required to operate these turrets. You'll notice that because it is 3 max power each and we have 4, that's 3, 6, 9, 12, which perfectly fills out this section here. If we had 4, before 8 and 12, so you'd only be able to have 3 versus the 4, and it just looks better with the 4 and it just works better with the 4. So this is my recommendation. Get these PBO 300 auto alpha turrets. It will basically mean you won't have to attack anything ever, because everything will just be fired upon automatically. And then we have the weapon mount. So let me take off the weapons first. Okay, so most people don't utilize these weapon mounts as well, but weapon mounts make it so you can mount 2 weapons or 2 things on the side where you normally could only mount 1. In my particular case, I'm using a scan jammer, a multi-frequency one that you can also get from shady dealers like the Red Mile or the Key, and this actually increases the chance that you'll smuggle in your goods. So I'm just putting it below there just because it's somewhere that's just makes it look a little bit like it's like a little weapon or something. So just looks cosmetically better in that spot. And it's mirrored over this side here, except the 2 weapons that we have. I have the Gorse gun, which hits hulls much better than shields on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side here, I have the Starseeker Pulsar Laser, which hits shields better than hits hulls, and they both require 4 power, which is the perfect amount of power that we have remaining. So I will be able to, in this ship, fire upon shields and hulls without having to rely on the turrets. And this is useful when you want to turn off the power to your turrets and not have something be killed. So you want to board something or board someone and steal the ship or kill the occupants or whatever. It's good to turn off your turrets because they will just keep firing until something is dead. So let's put these on. Very simple. And there we go. Now with the turrets, you might be tempted to face them to the left and right. So it's kind of like a battleship firing their broadside cannons. Except it doesn't quite work as well as you'd want. These will only fire when you have an enemy to your left, and these will only fire when you have an enemy to your right. Whereas if you have these facing straight ahead, they almost always fire. It's just the way the game works. So just trust me on that one. You might even want to put this, one of the turrets facing backwards just in case or something along those lines. But facing forward is generally better. So this is the ship. You've completed it. You've done it. This is the monster. There is absolutely nothing else you need to do or nothing else you really can do. More cosmetic changes you can make, which will just add to the mass, which will decrease your maneuverability. But this is a pretty lean ship. The only recommendations I can make to make it more lean is just to remove all the cosmetic stuff that isn't required. It's It's that simple, but then it won't look as good. The other recommendation is put more powerful engines, but then once again, it won't look as good. It's really up to you. Thanks so much for watching, guys. What do you think? Will you be building this monster or a variant of your own? We'd love to see what you come up with, so feel free to post pictures or videos on my Discord. For everything Starfield, check out all my guides. Until next time, ciao friends.